But I had no
We're going live.
Talk to her then.
Okay, so welcome along everybody to this meeting. First up, we will start with our karakia, so I'll ask you to stand and move on the screen. Just a heads up to everybody that our meeting today is being live streamed, so just be wary of that when you are speaking. First item on the agenda is apology from Victoria and from Jake for the absence and possibly Ali for early departure.
No, I was moving.
Oh.
I'm not an apology.
Early departure and through.
Oh, no, I don't need to.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a possible early departure.
Okay.
So I'll move.
Link, seconded John, put that motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Is carried. Declarations of interest, I'm declaring an interest in item 9, so Simon will take over for part of that. Confirmation of previous minutes. Do we have someone to move those minutes from July?
Oh.
Emma and Sunita seconded. Put that motion, all those in favour? That is carried. And that moves us on to item 4, which is our public forum. First up, we have Linda Elwood, who's going to speak regarding our request to make part of Fortune Playground Park into a dog park. Linda's got Barbara with her as well. Yeah. So if you just come up to the end of the table there, Linda.
Have a country chair.
Oh, great. Oh,
Right, just go ahead when you're ready.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Linda Elwood and my friend here is Barbara Spence, and we live at Diana Isaac Retirement Village in Marahau. And we're so lucky to have so many small streets in the village, plus the park areas and walking tracks around the village. Rymans have fenced off the village for our security, but my request, or our request, is to ask the council if we could use an area backing onto Fortune Street Park and playground as a small dog park for the unleashed dogs to roam and run freely. This would entail just one more fence across the area, as Rymans have 3 sides fully fenced. It would need 30 metres of fence to complete this. There's a couple of photos I've got passing around of it. There are approximately over 300 independent residents, and many of us have small dogs. I think there are approximately at least 12 at the moment. We find these dogs are very therapeutic and really family to quite a few of us. Many folk have moved to the village when their partners pass away, so the company of others helps us ease the feelings of loneliness. Also, of course, our animals help in this way, even more so. Some folk are less mobile and unable to exercise our pets as they need, and we are so lucky that we're able to bring them, our small family members, with us, cats and dogs. The area we're talking about is unused, mainly because some dogs, like mine called Panda, can run away onto neighbouring properties. They tend to ignore the word come. There are a lot of large dogs surrounding us. In fact, when out walking on Philpotts Road, Fortune Street end of the village, it seems most households have large barking dogs. Our small dogs are quite fearful of the large dogs, making it an uncomfortable area to walk in. Also, I've met many out walking in the Lady Isaac Way area with small dogs who would also benefit from a place to let their dogs run freely. I understand the council may be willing to let us have a temporary fence to trial this idea, and a few of us would be willing to help with this cost if needed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Linda. What a fantastic idea. We can certainly ask for our council staff to investigate it and see what can be done. Unfortunately, we can't make a decision on anything today or promise anything today. But I'm assuming you're speaking about the sort of the sticking out bit of the playground.
Yes.
Setbacks onto the village.
Yeah, because Ryman's can't use it.
Yeah.
And they gave it to the council apparently.
Right. Okay. Yeah, well, we'll certainly make a request for staff to look into it and we'll see what we can do, and we will keep you posted. Did anyone else have any questions, Linda?
No. It's a great idea. I love it.
And
Yeah, would you like to go? We've got one set maybe we can keep for us, but would you?
No, I don't need any more.
Okay.
No, but thank you very much for
Thank
coming along.
you.
Yeah, it was the right place to come to get your idea. We'll just see what we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Lorraine North, who's going to speak about noise nuisance in construction sites. Welcome along, Lorraine.
Thank you, and thank you for the extension. I just go a bit beyond the 5 minutes, probably because I used to be a teacher, so. Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about a serious and growing environmental health issue and one of noise pollution. Continual and invasive noise, and in this case, I'm talking about construction noise, affects many thousands of urban residents in the city and beyond. And its invisibility means it too often goes unaddressed. Now, 5 minutes isn't very long. So for background, these 3 documents have been circulated, I understand. This one is the council's brochure on neighbourhood noise, which actually contains all the principles necessary to protect residents from excessive and unreasonable noise. But in my experience of over 4 years, nearly 5, these tend to be interpreted by council staff in a way which protects the noise polluter rather than the victim. The second document is a summary of changes, which I have suggested based on my own experience. And I gave Pauline a copy of this some time ago, and I thank Pauline for her assistance as an advocate in this issue. And the third one is from Harvard Medical School, and this is an article about noise and health. And this and other international research shows that continual exposure to invasive noise not only undermines quality of life, but can seriously damage the physical and psychological health of individuals. Continual noise does not have to breach extremely high decibel levels to cause serious health harm. Even low levels and vibrations can trigger dysfunctional amygdala activity in the autonomous nervous system. And this can exacerbate or cause serious inflammatory, cardiovascular and other stress-related disease. Inescapable exposure to continual noise pollution has also been an identifiable factor in cases of severe depression and suicide. In Christchurch, increasing numbers of urban residents feel, to quote novelist Henry James, ravaged by hostile forces. Now, the construction industry is invading our neighbourhoods and ruining our lives, and we feel powerless to do anything about it. We feel stripped, and I'm speaking on behalf of my neighbours and a lot of other people that I know who feel the same way. We feel stripped of our democratic rights as citizens to have a say in not only what affects us in our communities, but also in our own homes. And we feel that the damage caused to us by this exposure to continual construction noise, which is often on an industrial scale in residential areas, is being disregarded with what seems like a brutal indifference. It's just, well, you just have to put up with it. Now, my personal predicament is indicative of many. Within a 200 to 300 metre radius of our home at the Browns Road on Hawkesbury Avenue, there are now 5 active construction sites. 2 of these are directly over our our side fence and now over our back fence, and almost all are building multiple dwellings. Now, 2 weeks ago, during the largest and most recent life care, which you may have heard about, began constructing 18 villas on Browns Road, my husband and I, and our cat, had to literally flee our home for health reasons and relocate at very short notice to escape what was unbearable noise, shock vibrations, invasion of diggers, chainsaws, trucks, heavy machinery literally over our back fence and in our street. And we're not sure when we're going to be able to return home. It may not be until the end of September. But the whole project is going to be a year before it's completed. Now, one of our near neighbours in Hawkesbury Avenue, right up by the Browns Road corner, who's right on this development, is about to have a baby any day now. And when I was talking to her the other day, she said, look, she just finds it so hard. She was told by the contractor, whoever it was, that they wouldn't start until 7:30 in the morning, which is early enough, but they are starting a lot earlier, and she's finding it really hard to cope. So she doesn't know how she's going to manage once she's had a baby. And she, you know, another neighbour who's an elderly lady in her 80s, she's virtually housebound. She's so distressed by the constant noise, vibrations, and she's got nowhere else to go. So how is she supposed to cope? And she said to my husband, she feels like she's living in a war zone. And this is her community. This is where she's lived for 30 years. My husband and I, our current forced evacuation from our home comes after years, literally years, of numerous shorter-term relocations due to continual construction noise next door, right along our fence line. And this is still going on. This construction is still going on. Our neighbour, a professional builder, subdivided his property to build a large 2-storey townhouse while living on site. For us, for my husband and I, this has meant 4.5 years of continual invasive noise close to our house, in our garden, concrete cutters, electric planers, skill saws, nail guns, heavy machinery, concrete pouring, concrete compacting. You know, we've had 4.5 years of this. And it often comes out of the blue. He refuses to communicate with us. He works weekends, as well as weekdays. He works weekends and public holidays. He has ignored City Council guidelines. He ignores visits by noise control officers. He's disregarded direct approaches from senior environmental staff, such as John Elks, and also from our Deputy Mayor, Pauline Cotter. He just ignores these. And the one work schedule that he provided us with was invalid. We went away for 10 days to avoid this massive noise. When we came back, he hadn't even started. No. So repeatedly relocating a household, which includes a traumatised cat, which is, you know, it's a pretty distressing thing when an animal is really we're traumatised, cat's traumatised. This comes at a high cost in financial, practical and emotional terms. We love our home of 30 years. It's an old villa and we love our garden and we love our cat, but it's been almost 5 years since we've been able to enjoy peace, you know, to have peaceful enjoyment of our own property. And during these disruptions, during these disruptive periods, we've had to deal with some pretty big life-changing experiences. We've had major surgery, repeated serious illness. My mother died. Where can one recover from major life events such as these if not in one's own home? In a home for which our rates bill is not insignificant, I have to say. The next question, of course, is what can be done? And the Harvard School of Medicine, in their article, they say that to say the onus is on the individual to fix noise exposure is not feasible. So, given that construction noise is not going away anytime soon, the urgent appeal I make to the Christchurch City Council, not just on behalf of my own household, but all Christchurch residents, is that it uphold its own standards regarding neighbourhood noise as set out in this brochure. Because if these principles are enforced, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't need to be here today. So our City Council, I believe, must, through effective enforcement, execute its duty of care as defined in the Resource Management Act of 1991, which is to protect us from excessive and unreasonable noise. And that is a phrase that occurs time and time again in this particular brochure. So a really critical factor here is information, is residents getting information about what is happening around them. And I believe it should be mandatory for construction companies, large or small, to ensure affected residents receive timely notifications about their schedules of work, so they know in advance what is coming up. And these schedules of work need to be reliable, accurate, and constantly updated to be of any use. Now, earthquake trauma revisits, and this is what happened to us when your whole house starts shaking at 8 o'clock in the morning. The whole house, the crockery shaking, the glassware, the cat's terrified, we're terrified, this hideous noise. We have no idea, just suddenly, what is causing it? How long is it going to last? And if we had been given some idea that this was going to happen, we wouldn't have been there. So the whole thing about re-traumatizing, and I was just talking to Ali before about how we are still hypersensitive in the city after the earthquakes to any noise, any vibration. Suddenly you're back in that mode, and it's not a nice place to be. So what I would say that if residents know what to expect, we can at least try to plan around the worst aspects of construction noise, given that it's here to stay. We need to be given the opportunity to do what we can to protect our health. And you'll see in this article, it is not just a nuisance. Noise is not just a nuisance. It's a health risk. It's a serious health risk. And there's a lot of international research being done. This was written in 2022, calling for more international research to be done about the serious health damage that is caused by noise pollution. So just to finish, specific to the summary that I gave Pauline, which you copied of, there are some very specific things that I'd like to suggest that we open up for discussion and really look at practical reality behind doing these things. So in addition to facilitating information exchange, I believe the council should protect as much greenery as it possibly can. Apart from absorbing carbon, it's also a sound buffer. So as much greenery should be protected. Work hours 7:30 till 5:30 Monday to Friday. We think much more reasonable than 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. 6 days a week, which is what they currently can do. And I think the council needs to strictly enforce weekends and holidays as quiet times for nearby residents, because otherwise you don't have a breathing space. It just goes on and on, which is what has happened to my husband and I. And we need to ensure that there are completion dates for projects. I mean, this project next door to us, the builder, it's 4.5 years. First of all, he restored the old house, then he built a garage, then he did the driveway, and he spent the last year building a huge 2-story townhouse. So there's no end date, and he's going to build a swimming pool, and his, and we don't want to move. We're not going to move, and even if we do, it doesn't solve the problem because we just move somewhere, and there'll be a construction site next door. So moving does not solve the problem. So just the last few points that we think that the council should review its policy on decibel levels. Levels do not have to be excessively high to cause damage and distress, because electric planers, presumably, according to John Alps, don't breach the decibel levels. But you try having an electric planer in your ear, and the builder is wearing earmuffs. Well, we're not, and he would just do that just day in, day out. So the other thing that I think that the council, well, there are lots of things, these are just some examples. It could act to mitigate controllable noise factors, such as the alarm, those beeper alarms when vehicles are backing. There are alternatives to those piercing beepers that carry for mile, and they're just terrible. There are other ways of using, other ways of having alarm. It's a safety issue, of course, for people working, but there are alternatives to those beepers. And also not allowing amplified music to be, on site. Here we have a roofer, amplified music blasting out. I mean, things like that could really easily be mitigated. And I think there really need to be some tough penalties imposed on ongoing noise polluters, and the victims of noise pollution really need to be the ones being protected, not the perpetrators. So these are just a few examples of many ways in which I think the City Council can act in order to protect residential victims of noise pollution. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. We have gone well over the.
Yes, I realise that.
So
So thank you.
Don't have any time for questions, obviously. But thank you very much for coming on. As you say, we've got all the information.
Yes.
Let's see what we
And I've also got copies of this presentation if anyone wants to.
We have
You've already got it, yes.
Oh, no, you haven't, because I hadn't written it. What I've just presented
Yeah, no, I'd like.
is a summary of the three documents. So there are several, I've got an envelope there that's got several. This is the.
Emma, how could we continue the conversation about this as far as process goes?
Pauline, did you have any suggestions on where you want to go from here?
Would we do it in
Sorry,
the?
I know I've got.
I'm sorry, Lorraine, you've
I
had
just-
well over your 5 minutes.
Oh, how can I get feedback? I mean, you must have we don't have time now.
Well, we just talk about how we
Yeah.
talk about it.
Okay, well, and you'll be kept in the loop.
Should we do it in members info, or what's the guidance from staff? Where do we deal with
What
them?
are the limitations and members' info as far as outcomes go?
We
None?
can make resolutions.
No, you can refer this to staff. Can.
Okay, well, let's do
We
it.
can discuss it then.
Okay,
All
great.
Good.
So yeah, Lorraine will discuss it later on in the meeting under a different.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Item 5, we do not have any deputations, no petitions. We've got item 7, correspondence. We have a mover and a seconder for that correspondence. Simon's moved it. I'll second it. Put that motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried. Item 8, we've got North Avon Road, proposed short-term parking restrictions.
Look, I'm happy to move it. It looks fine to me.
Yep.
So we start.
Oh, great. Welcome along.
Thank you.
Hi.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to introduce Sahan Laveg. He's new to the traffic operations team. He's been with us for about 3 months. I'm also team leader for traffic operations. Some of you may know me, some of you don't. Sorry if I've been absent. And we'll come back at a later date and tell you a bit more about the team and what we do. Sally, our marshal, also works in the central Papanui-Innes area, so you often see Sally, but you'll also be seeing a lot more of Sahan as well.
Thank you for taking to come along, and nice to meet you, Sahan.
Thank you for having me. Yes, just before I start, have you read the report?
Yeah. I think.
I think we're all very happy.
Brenda's. Great job with the report. That was well done. It all and don't have any questions. So that's a good reflection on you.
Yeah.
So we've got a mover and a seconder. That was Pauline and. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
Carrie, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9, strengthening communities funding. Ask our staff. Eva and Helen and Stacey.
Afternoon, board.
Good afternoon, Trevor.
We want to go like Sahan and.
It's his first day, so you got the advantage.
So we'll take it all as read. Anybody got any questions?
Really?
Had already been forwarded through and have been answered. In the agenda. John.
Yeah, hi, hi everyone. My questions are just some minor not minor geographical points, but just 3 of the applicants are in suburbs that are not in our board area or appear to be, for example, a dance group centred in Hallswell, tennis club at Mirabelle, and another dance group that operates out of Hornby.
Certainly, John, that the people who attend those groups come from our ward, or a percentage of them do. And for example, with the dance company, the main percentages, I believe, from also Hornby, Riccarton, but the percentage of people who attend come from our ward.
Okay.
So therefore, that's why we fund that organisation, because the members of our public attend.
Yeah, and our percentage of funding, is it somehow reflective of that?
Yes.
Percentage of intent?
Yeah.
Yeah,
As per that, yes.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Good.
Any other questions?
Oh, I was just looking for the, this came through as a attachment or a memo somewhere. I've written all my notes on that one that came through before the agenda came out. Anyway, I think I put a question through about the smaller ones, the why haven't they gone to discretionary? Did you?
Yes.
Yes, you did send it. Did we
Yeah.
reply to that?
So we did reply to that, but basically what's left over from strengthening communities will go. I mean, the leftover amount of today, you will decide how much goes into the discretionary fund.
Yes, but I meant the applications, more value, like I would have thought.
No, they do come to strengthening communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right, then that's quite surprised. I kind of always thought it was a kind of a more chunky.
No,
And
but
remember-
once upon a time, we used to have small grants and that was a separate amount, and then they got combined. So we get those smaller grants as well as the, yeah, so that's the
And
difference.
also, if you remember, Pauline, in July, we moved quite a few of the smaller ones to finish off our DRF for last year.
That's right. Thank you.
Ali?
Just a question around the school wardens for St Albans. Can you, I mean, that seems like an awfully small amount. Can you just talk through how you came to that decision?
Yeah, so this board has kindly funded that for several years now, and obviously because of the work that has happened and is ongoing on Cranford Street as needed. So the figure is historic, and if obviously the board would like to increase that, then that is, yeah.
I mean, I'd like to put that on the table to discuss if at all possible. I know that just recently the usual warden has retired, and I think there's a new one there now, a new mum, I think, who's started. Yeah, it just, I don't know what room we have to move there.
Would it be an option?
A day.
Would it be an option for them to apply to discretionary for the amount that they need, should they need an
Have
increase?
they asked?
This year, because this group has applied to discretionary for a long time, and normally discretionary funds is for one-off projects. And so we've worked with the group to get them into the strengthening communities kind of timeline. And
It's just that we don't know how much they need. I mean, I'm very supportive. It's a great project, but how much do we?
Well, they've requested 5. The full cost is 7.5. So,
We'll give them 7.5.
well,
What
yeah.
page is it?
39 of
Thank you.
42 matrix.
Page 76 of the agenda.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, 76 of the agenda. Yeah.
The staff recommended 50% for school to contribute the other 50%.
Okay.
That's fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we also do have to remember here, it could be setting a precedent for other schools. I mean, they're not the only school with dangerous intersection and dangerous busy road right outside.
And also the board, if they approve it, will be recommending the same amount for the following years. I think it's 2 years and for 2 years.
You don't think that there's an argument there to increase it because of the huge increase in traffic we're looking at? You know, since 2021, we've been giving 2,500. I mean, I would have thought that you could tie that to some form of cost of living increase or traffic danger increase. I appreciate your comments around setting a precedent. I think that's a really important consideration, but they've clearly been funded previously and there's been no adjustment over the period of time. I mean, even if it went up to 3K, it's still 500 more than we have there at the moment.
Well, second.
Yeah. I'll move that up to 3.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm okay with 3. So
Yeah.
agreement with 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
2 years. Because
but-
yeah,
For 2 years, I think it's got to be.
2 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions around this?
Just update the board, with Bishop Dale table tennis, we will be lowering the staff recommendation, because Benjamin Waimari gave them more, because we're in the fortunate position of everybody, we're the last table on the rank.
Nice, well,
And so we're reducing that by
It's a little bit more to push into discretionary.
so it's got, the recommendation in the agenda is 350.
yeah, and it goes down to 200.
Yeah, 300, okay. Were there any other ones where other boards have made decisions that were changed from their recommendations that might affect?
In the current spreadsheet, all the recommendations from other boards are what's in the resolution.
Yeah.
You might be able to pick that up there.
Got a question about Richmond. Can you explain the difference between Avery House, the work that goes on at Avery House, and then Richmond business, is it?
Residents and business.
Residents and business, so, and Revolution and all
So
the.
I think that was a question that was asked by another elected member, and it's in attachment C. So as the more our community groups work together and in partnership and collaborate is fantastic. That's like an inception model, and it builds more resilient cities, groups, areas, and so they are 3 separate organisations, and they do their co-papas are different. They're all registered in the charities register, so different things, but the great thing about those particular 3 is they do work really collaboratively together on events, galas, fairs. So yeah, that's sharing their resources, whether that be staff capacity, volunteers. Yeah, so it's as a community development advisor, that is probably best model, best practice.
So you don't think they're double dipping or anything like that?
No, well, that was the question that I put through that you answered, but because there's a lot of the same people on the same
I
groups.
believe there's only 2 out of all the 3 boards.
Yeah,
There's only 2 people, which shows the commitment of the individual as opposed to.
right.
Yep.
But you've answered it, that they've got very different co-papas, so they need to be 3 different organisations.
And the staff are all different?
Yes, yes. Actually, I went to Richmond Community Gardens yesterday. So, yeah.
I think I think they're wonderful as well. I think they do great work. I've got no issue. I just,
What did you mean?
dodgy.
Oh, no, I didn't. I was more asking from an efficiencies perspective. There's certainly.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
Okay, so you can see on the spreadsheet there that has changed slightly with those tweaks that will be, yeah.
Good thing Mark's good at maths.
Yes. Can I move the whole lot?
Probably
Yes.
need to do, we split those.
Oh, we're splitting off
We have to split off number
the
9.
Fluid Laboratory Trust.
On that first.
Um,
We can do that.
yeah, Simon, you do that one first.
Silly. Cool. Would anybody like to move the?
Don't we just vote for them all and note that you guys have stepped aside from the particular one that you're setting aside?
It's easy to do it this way, because this one's separate. There's only the one.
Oh, there's only the one, okay, right.
So do we have a move?
Well, can I just say to this one, like, normally I would have, because I think this is an amazing project, because we all know what they're doing, the partnerships they have and the environmental input they're bringing to the Styx River Authority. I normally would know more, but they have still got that $4 million chunk from the
Yes.
Crown a couple of years ago. So I'm happy with this, today.
So looking for a mover, Sunita, and seconded by Emma T. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? That's carried. Back to you, Ellen.
Simon. So we've got the remainder here. So we're just doing the report, the assessment of events, and then we're approving the following ones.
I had, so I can just quickly show you the end will change.
It's the remainder of the fund will go to the discretionary.
Yes.
There's not an amount, it's just the unspent funds. So Simon, you're always keen to move this. John seconded it. Any debates? Okay, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Good job, guys.
Carried. Thank you very much.
I think
I'd like to recognise Lisa, who does the bulk of the matrices and proofreading and so obviously she's not at the table, but she is kind of the backbone of this.
Oh, thank you.
Right, thank you, Lisa.
You make me buy some chocolates or something.
She's watching. She'll be heard there.
Right, item 10, community board projects fund for 24-25 year. Any questions on that? I did have one thing I wanted to change. I was going to suggest that we look at moving the Community Pride Garden Awards from annually to biannually. I wondered if the board would be supportive of that. Every second year.
Oh, can I,
Yeah.
No, I don't support that. I would like to see, because I think there's one board that combines the both. It's Braden Heathcote. I think they do them both together. They Pride and Edible together. And when are we going to do the winter hours? Because I would like to adopt that if we could, especially since the edible garden board numbers tended to drop quite a bit in more recent years.
Obviously we didn't do the edible gardens this year. And I don't know if you guys maybe want to speak to why that is and why it's not actually included in these recommendations today.
I had the privilege of working on the edible garden since the board started it up, and I'd say that the edible gardens were all success at the beginning because it brought everyone together after the earthquakes. I think it's a testament to what the board has done with the edible gardens at the beginning, that there's so many local gardens, so many local groups with an edible garden now. I think it's really served its purpose. It was indicative last year of the major drop in people who applied, and also that may refer to the elder members of our society who are not engaged in that anymore, while the community gardens are taking up the younger and the middle age, the young people like myself who are working in that area now. But the drop was significant, and I think the board has done a really, really good job to promote that, which is now being picked up around the city. And I don't think that the capacity of the people showing interest in it anymore, but they're finding their gardening with the community groups, as you see the proliferation of community gardens.
I agree. I wonder if we could look at community garden awards then. And the thing is that, because I've been involved from the inception of this too, because originally we just had the Garden Pride, which was the pretty flowers in front. And the edible gardens was more, well, part of it was actually getting gardeners together and talking about how they're growing food, perhaps having some examples of the produce, like a bit of a party really. But maybe we could, I mean, the thing is, if we don't put it in here, we can always bring it in from discretionary if we, because we were supposed to be workshopping these things at some point, and I think we should. Personally.
Yeah, I'd suggest maybe we kind of take it offline, but there is always the option. We're not committing necessarily to do, I think, 12 months, not to do something.
Okay, so going back to the Garden Pride, I wouldn't like to go to every 2 years. I think it's the slippery slope to losing it, and people do love to get certificates. Is it because of a cost or what?
I see it as it's a decent amount of money to be spending on, and what are a lot of the time the same people getting the certificates.
I agree.
I think it's money that could be spent elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's done its day. Yeah.
No, what are you gonna say?
Well, you know, I've been out with them a few times and things, and I don't really get it. They're like, I don't know how they pick the roads. You know, like they don't go to anyone to pick the roads. They just sort of pick them themselves. Like Central, I think the Central this year had no short roads in it. Like it's like, how'd you manage to find no short road?
I mean, maybe we look at an event where you bring people in and where you have a guest speaker and people can network and speak and share information and whatever.
I think even part of what Trevor was saying is that's sort of happening in another space now, right? You've got the community garden associations.
Yeah.
Community gardens.
Oh, okay, yeah, so we don't need to do that, yeah,
I
yeah.
was going to say, that's what I was going to say. It's like, give the money to the community garden association.
Or the horticulture.
Support them.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, I'd do it community gardens, and they've now got 50?
Yeah.
50 community gardens, or is it 70 community
70.
gardens?
70
I think
now,
70
yeah.
within
Yeah,
Canterbury.
and they could run it themselves.
Well,
Yeah.
they are doing, you know, they're starting to do things like that. Like they're involved in Heritage Week. They're doing, so the community gardens are involved in Heritage Week. So a lot of the community gardens will be open for people during that time.
Yeah, and even if they were to come to us for funding to contribute to an event that they're running or something, I just see it as a better use of our staff's time.
Yeah, and the bus tour, they did the bus tour, went around the community gardens last year, which was a wonderful event, and they're planning on doing that again. So there is, so I you know, like, I would think that we don't need to be doing it because it's being done by
By the people who are
others,
doing it.
and we should support those that are doing it and doing it well rather than.
Okay,
Well, what you've raised, Emma, I would support what you've raised. I don't know how others feel.
well, it sounds like you've
What, doing every second?
Yeah, just put it, don't fund it, and just for annually, I mean.
the garden pride
Yeah.
or the edible.
No, the pride one.
Do they get money from somewhere else as well?
I think,
Horticultural
the Horticultural
Society.
Society Code
Okay,
funds, don't they? Yeah.
Because I mean, look at
It comes in a
the Edward area.
I know. I told them about that. I asked,
I had
it's like,
two in the past.
like,
Beautiful gardens on the street and dog bowls out, little boxes with books and beautiful and never it comes up and there's like three beautiful houses in a row that obviously have all shared the same vision and they're just
it's a
amazing.
woman. It's one woman.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I never-
Simon,
Yeah, just, my concern is, yeah, this award is a partnership between council and the beautifying association, and we might be unilaterally pulling the pin on it without consultation with them.
Yeah, I agree.
Having said that, if we don't, yeah, if we took that out of the resolutions today, we're not ruling out that we're going to do it. We just haven't made it. And potentially it still could come back to a future meeting. I mean, I'd be comfortable with this, taking up Emma's suggestion that we don't resolve funding for that today, but I would like somebody to maybe have the conversation with the Beautifying Association.
we could note in there that a conversation be had with them about moving it to.
She's talking about buying.
Yes.
So that would be not next year, but the one after.
Well, we did it this year, right? Earlier this year, so it'd be not next year.
And I agree with Simon, I think we have to check with them before we make a resolution about it.
Yeah, so we
May
can
as well
just
leave that in
note.
because we can always.
Well, yeah, we can table that particular one.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to allocate funding today. I'm happy if we don't allocate funding for it, because we will still have funding available in our DRM. But yeah, if we can have, instead of allocating funding, if we note an intent to discuss with the CBA.
I take out the whole bit about allocating it, Mark.
And, like also it's $1,500 to, again, towards people who can afford to buy plants.
Yeah, I know,
that's,
but- The Simon's saying it is a partnership, we shouldn't be
Yeah.
making a decision without talking about the partnership.
Yeah.
And don't forget the idea of this came from wanting to give people pride in the city of Christchurch, so the outside of your property looked really nice and appealing, so when tourists come through, visitors think, oh, well, the city looks great. So you might drop it and then lose that enthusiasm from the people who are actually doing the marketing. So we could be like taking it for granted, and just because it's the same people, doesn't matter, it's still beautifying our city, isn't it? So
I don't know if the people get it just for the certificate they get.
Yeah, and I don't know. Don't even know.
Oh, I had a phone call from one gentleman earlier this year who was a little bit worried that his certificate hadn't arrived. And he'd never missed and he really wanted it again. So.
The garden pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we've got that noting provision there, and yeah, if we want to, there's money in the DRF that we can allocate it later on.
It's got the name right. We get $1,500 to Morrison Street or something like that.
Maybe, sorry, Mark, take the 2025 out of your certificate.
The other thing I did just want to mention is the summer with your neighbours, Horswell, Hornby, Rickerton, they tweaked their summer with their neighbours resolution for this year, and they've extended the time frame for applications, and they've delegated to their governance manager to decide grants up to and including $200. That's something I'm interested in doing. Taking the time frame wider opens it up to possibly more people. But we can't really do it for this year because all the advertising was done out. So I thought maybe we could look at that for next year.
But what we could do is accept late applications.
It's hard to manage.
We
isn't it?
have done that in the last week. The report had to be written this week, next week, to get it up for the next board meeting.
But could they come through DRF? Any late ones?
Yes, anything can come to
Yeah.
DRF.
So the door shouldn't be closed on these things because it's about, and some people just don't hear about them until someone has an event and they go, oh.
You've got to have a cut-off though. You can't have people applying and these guys have got to manage because it requires management and.
Yeah, but no, that's what we'll look at for next year. So there's the other boards one, the applications go from July, applications between July and 31st of March, which is the whole time period of actually holding the event. Ours closed now. But, so we'll look at that for next year.
Okay.
Good idea.
Cool. Right, so do we have a mover in the seconder for those resolutions there? Emma, Ali seconded. Any debate? No, put that motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried. Then we move to our DRF application from Papanui Anglican Parish. I'm happy to move this one. Pauline seconded it. Put that motion, all those in favour? Aye. That is carried. And error report. Take it as read.
Take it as read. Just want to update the board, the last planting at Lancaster Park on August the 24th isn't happening now. And they've got all the plants planted.
Oh, wow.
Which is great.
Is that the Papanui bush?
No, that Lancaster Park.
Oh, yeah.
Lancaster Park. So one of the plantings they did was with a whole lot of their park staff as their staff induction. So they, which was great. So it's looking fantastic. And just to remind everyone tomorrow, if you are available to come in to the community liaison and play.
Great. Can I just add to that, that's part of the new model for our parks maintenance is that the teams can now combine on work on one project if needed, which happened at Lancaster Park, and that's why we got all that work done with volunteers as well. But it's a great plus. Yeah, it's really good.
Great. Another very thorough report. Thanks for all those updates and everything. No more questions? No. Mover and a seconder then. John. Ellie seconded it. Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you very much, team.
Thank you.
And finally, item 13, elected members information exchange. So we'll start off with the public forum. Good.
Right, and so
Yes.
I'm assuming that you could probably speak to this when we present to council because it's quite an interesting one. The thing is that the construction noise is a different level, and that's set by central government, 55 dB, whereas residential noise is 50. But the way I see it is that what Lorraine is suffering is chronic exposure, long term, and it's a whole different issue. Now, I don't know what the solution is, but whether, I mean, she has given us some points to follow up, which would be quite good just for you to note at council. It's not something the community board can bring into being, but we could definitely look at some of the stuff, and particularly like construction, maybe it should be weekend free. And maybe it shouldn't start at 7:30 in the morning, but maybe 8 o'clock till 6 at night. Those things I think are very doable, but that is central government. So whether we choose to agree to write to the local MP on her behalf, suggesting they might want to look at that.
How's that central government when we've got noise?
They set the construction noise decibels.
Oh, I thought you were meaning days and times. Okay.
Has she been,
Days and times.
has she been to Duncan about it?
Yes, he sent it to me. So anyway, but I think she's got a point.
Yes,
I think it's the distress there, and it's going to be going on for a while. The new building that's happening over the back have said to her they won't be doing it on the weekend, and they'll be very strict with their time. So they sound like they're really considerate. But and there's obviously a complete breakdown in the relationship now between her and current construction. I'm not saying there's any right or wrong here, but I think she does have some points there that it really shouldn't be going all week and Saturdays as well. The other thing too is maybe our council staffing needs to be increased for the compliance. I mean, she says things like she has called, they've come out, they've told person that they're breaching and they need to stop them as soon as they leave, it starts again. Need someone to be able to come back again. It's a hard one, but maybe we're under-resourced in that area. So I don't know, I'm just wondering if we could, but there's two things there. There's the council side of the compliance, and then there's also the central government construction rules that maybe we could, on her behalf, write to Duncan and say maybe we would have a look at that in this case. If the board said that was a good thing to do.
Yeah, I'd support, yeah.
Let's have a look at it, Rachel.
Come, Ellie.
Oh, no, Emma was
Oh,
first.
sorry.
I think the other side of the coin is the fact that in construction contracts, you've got deadlines. And who's going to pay the fines if they don't come in on time? And also a lot of that timing thing is down to things like weather, materials turning up on time, staff sickness, And so what you're basically saying is that, these things are outside their ability to change, but they're going to have to live with taking on the costs that they'll incur by not finishing their contract on time. So I don't. The
subcontractors.
Subcontractors, the main contractor.
Oh, that's the other issue she raised about timeframes. I think that's a different thing again. But I think probably addressing the times that you can work on a big construction.
You can't do that either.
Not the length of the job, the Monday to Friday.
But that's the thing, a lot of, I know subcontractors being involved directly rely on being able to do things on Saturday to catch up when other people are falling behind during the week.
And then of course, when you've got big runs on things like concrete and stuff like that, you can't, they're pouring them at 4 o'clock in the morning just to get through them.
Yeah, and I think that she was saying, the notification thing is another thing. There's little tweaks you might be able to do to make it.
It's communication, I think.
Pouring concrete is a kind of a one-off, one-day part of a thing usually. She's talking about the ongoing stuff and the vehicles in that. And I think generally it should be Monday to Friday. Saturday morning tops.
But imagine that 4 years, 5 years, non-stop. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I did it for 2 and it was bad enough.
Emma, can I make a suggestion? I don't think it's up to us to be deciding what we should be doing and picking bits of this that need attention. That's not our job. Where I think we need to start is, and we seem to get a lot of surveys, we've just had the Life and Christchurch survey come through. I think this is a citywide issue, and I think it needs to start with what people think and the problems that they're having. And then that needs to inform what staff then decide they can do within the parameters that they've got to work with. I mean, I appreciate what Pauline's done. It's great getting involved. Yeah, and that's what we do is with individuals. But this has got to be a big picture strategic thing, and it's got to involve central government, the entire city. My biggest concern, and I took some notes down from what Lorraine said, to me is the lack of enforcement and the lack of consequences. I mean, stuff like that is in the rules or within the parameters that we can operate at the moment. There should be absolutely no excuse for that not being enforced. So there are two issues. There's the immediate stuff that needs to be dealt with, and it sounds like it's not. We need to find out why. Is it because we're under-resourced? And we need to look at it long-term and strategically, which might be a survey to people in Christchurch. So those would be my suggestions.
Yeah, but that is something that you could bring up through your report to council and perhaps ask for some guidance there, but we'd have to outline those points that are relevant to the city council. And then we've got the other thing, which is the central government control over the construction noise.
But that's what I think staff should be doing.
And I want Courtney Street closed.
No, but
between
what I'm suggesting is that
7
we write to the
and 7
MP who is in central government and just raise it with them.
But we can't do that till we know what the parameters are. What I'm saying is we need to have
Well, no,
advice from staff.
he can pick up that piece of work. That's not our work. If he wants to, that's all I'm saying. So
It would be good to know though what city council and central government parameters apply. That's what I'm saying is it would be helpful for elected members as well as perhaps people in Christchurch to be aware of who's responsible for what before we start asking central government to readdress some issues, you know, that we.
Well, we just outlined to the local MP that we've had a constituent come with some issues that are actually the responsibility of central government, which is chronic exposure to chronic construction noise. And she is claiming that the hours are too long, they're being breached, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's as simple as that. And then the other piece of work is what council has control over. And one of them is lack of resource for compliance.
Yeah, I mean, with respect, I just think that's too piecemeal. I think we have to look at this as a whole and see who's responsible for what and see what people are having problems with. But you know, how do we progress it? That's the thing. It's about residents, and I think you only need to look at the amount of infill housing and the amount of building that we've had in St Albans, particularly in the last 5 years especially, to see what people have been living with, like Lorraine, over and over again.
And there's just more. I mean, everywhere you look, there's houses coming down. Could we do?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'm just going to point out the memo that's included on the hub does answer a lot of those questions. I think you're asking, Ellie, about what council's responsibility is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've read that.
Yeah, I did, but I only skimmed it.
But in her, sorry, John, but in her update, she gave us points that she thinks need addressing, and I think they've all got merit, and we can see which ones are us and which ones are central.
Yeah, I think we can pretty easily segregate the ones where we've got, the controllables that are council orientated matters. There's enough info in the staff memo, I think, to do that. And it really is the enforcement and issue. And then almost everything else appears to fall into that parliamentary legislation area. So we can work on, we can recommend or work potentially on enforcement and penalty. We can see what the challenge is, that even when noise isn't necessarily at an amplitude above the decibel, there are other characters, exactly.
That's right.
The pitch, the frequency,
the vibration.
and in her case, the sheer longevity of it. It's been going for nearly 5 years, and I went past. It's right next door. It's right on the fence line. There are unusual circumstances there that sort of go through the net of the noise rules at the moment. So that's a bigger picture, a bigger context. But we can start work on the enforcement aspects, I think, straight away. And right to our MP about it.
Well,
we could deal with her in particular though. Could we not alert, alert council?
It's a classic extreme case.
It is a classic extreme. It is extreme.
Well, so noise control are aware. She's on their list of ones to be responded to. If she calls in, she gets responded to straight away.
Okay.
And they are being proactive in that way.
Yes, but
So can they not fine?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is what.
No, it's the fact that it's,
you can tell them to stop.
it's getting the evidence.
And they don't go with anything to measure the
Yeah.
noise with, so it's very difficult. It's a tricky one that's beyond our control or our ability to find a solution for, but I think it's an interesting one, as Ellie says, to raise and then put the lens on to see what could be done.
What was the issue though about there not being action taken by the builder or the person making the noise when it was highlighted to them and they were asked to stop? I mean, that's my big concern.
Well, that's not that's someone doing something on that. That's home renovations, basically.
No, my point is though that if the council comes out and the complainant is found to be correct and then the person is told to pull their head in and nothing happens, well, I mean,
Then the compliance team goes away, then
Yeah.
it starts again. You know, and then she has to, I think it says once she rang in four times
Yeah.
in one day.
yeah,
But every
there's
time they
three.
come out, there's no evidence of the noise,
Yeah.
but it means that they've seen them coming and turned it off.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah. I wonder if the council's got any plans to look at this as a bigger piece. I know that inner city noise is an issue, isn't it, that's being looked at. But it might be, I mean, what I would hate to happen is that this also being a problem in other parts of the city, and here's us talking about it and thinking about ways to deal with it, when it might be something you could bring up at the chairs forum.
Yeah,
Emma, to
but
see if it's
what we're
more-
looking at in the central city is a general noise limit for, it's really about hospitality, bands and music.
Music venues.
Well,
and
This
stuff.
is a residential.
building standard.
I think we make it clear, this is construction.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Into existing residential.
But is it
Yeah.
something that the chairs forum might be interested in as far as other boards having problems with this? Might be something the boards can work together to try and.
Yeah, I can ask. I think I mean, we can't make a resolution here, but we'll note that we'll do the letter to the MP.
Mhm.
And then we'll look at options for what we can do to.
Back to you, Pauline, did Duncan say why it was?
No, I haven't talked to him
No,
about it.
okay.
I guess that he assumed that council's responsible for noise
Right.
control.
Okay.
But when we found out that it's central government sets the limit for construction, then there's a role for him to
Yeah,
play
right.
in that area if he chooses to. But yeah, thank you. I think that would be good.
So we've noted that.
So we get staff advice on the bigger picture, how to tackle that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got staff advice in this memo.
I mean,
I think it's
our staff
us
advice.
as elected members now advocating for what we think needs to be done.
So I think that when you speak to it at council, perhaps we could get a steer there, might pass it on for further advice on perhaps, as Ellie said, a piece of work gets developed or we look into it or there might be another bylaw come out of it. I don't know, but.
Actually, that's some great suggestions. I mean, I know that as Emma said, work loads and what's happening changes. But if you know that there's going to be a compacting job done on a certain day, it would be great to be out of there, wouldn't it?
Oh, totally. And I do think that's where it comes down to. I mean, people understand construction. They understand it makes noise and it's disruptive.
It's just about communication.
It's about communication. And that's where they should be pinged if they don't communicate with the neighbours.
Yeah.
Like out of respect.
Okay, right, we'll move on. Does anyone have anything else for members?
Oh, yeah. Just following the tree thing in Severn Street. We were talking with both Tony and the other chap who was there. Thanks for organising that too. That was really great to have that happen. I think it became really clear that there again is no long-term high-level strategy around those trees. And it looks like because of the lack of maintenance around them, there's going to be some more serious pollarding and trimming back that's going to be done. And one of them, I can't remember whether it was Tony or the other chap, basically said that, in an ideal world, what we need to do is actually start replacing some of those trees. So I'm just, instead of being reactive, which is what we are with those trees at the moment, especially around the legislation and when the power lines are becoming an issue, as well as communicating with Orion, because they do need to have some pressure put on them to start undergrounding more, in my opinion. Can we look at doing some work or getting some advice from staff on what there is or should be long-term around those streets with trees in them, because it's not only, I think, in the Inniswater, it'd be in Papanui as well. I don't know about Central, but you've got some pretty amazing streets and memorial streets in Papanui. And it would just be good to know what plan, and if there isn't, could we have one, is there for replacement and management of those trees into the future? Because we've got into this situation by having no plan, by basically just leaving them grow. So I'm just wondering if we could have a briefing on it, or we could have, maybe the board could suggest that we look at a bigger piece of work for these streets in Innes and Papanui. I just wonder what people thought.
I think a briefing would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if there's no long-term plan because they don't have funding, then we can advocate.
That's exactly what I said to them, is
And
it's a
annual
long-term.
plan coming
Yeah,
up,
yeah. Okay, great.
Or
That's
even the
awesome.
next LTP,
Yeah, thank you.
but it's big money,
Yeah.
and that's because like everything, like the highways and the
Yeah,
streets and
the infrastructure
everything,
stuff,
it's
yeah.
been deferred maintenance because nobody wants to pay new
Yeah.
rates and new taxes and have a better country.
Thanks, Ellie.
Right, thank you.
Just to note, there was another accident today on, was hospitalised just a few minutes before I got into the car to come
Was that
here.
down Westminster? I saw them.
Hills, it was.
Yeah, I saw the-
Hills, Warrington.
Oh my God, well, you don't know whether it was a child?
We've just done that one up.
It was a bus.
Oh, it was a bus.
It was a bus, apparently.
We've just done that.
Nothing done.
conversation.
Yeah, well, that's the comments. That's actually the comments on the
Oh, yeah.
Facebook thing is that, you know, it seems that there's more accidents happening on these roads that are made safer. Was the comments. And there was another comment about buses pulling out on people. And I reminded them that the rule is that you give way to buses.
Do you know what happened in that accident?
No, I don't.
I just saw the flashing.
I just saw
Yeah.
the thing. So yeah, just to note that there was another accident and there's been several more at the corner of Innes Cranford as well. Whole truck flipped.
Oh, yeah, but it's.
Yeah, but it's ongoing. I mean, the accidents are, they're fairly regular. So yeah, I wanted to speak about the advertising signs on the corner of, have we spoken about those?
Oh, Innocent Cranford.
Innocent Cranford. Can we follow up how the hell they managed to get that past resource consent?
As a distraction at a busy corner, you mean?
Yeah, so I believe that they have got round it. So they've got round the resource consent because it's far too close. It wouldn't have been granted if it was on the outside of the building. So somehow they've got around the resource consent, and from my understanding, it's actually been by council staff who have done it, have had help. And so they have it on the inside of the window and they don't have it touching the window. And that's how they've managed to get those in there. Oops.
So maybe we want to get the crash data as well and that question answered.
Yeah, so how have they managed to do that, put such a distraction on a corner that has, high rate of accidents already?
Yeah, you can ask.
We can't really have actions in a breast comfort information session, but you can take it offline by
Yeah,
just emailing me a question
Yeah.
and I can put it through.
Can I ask, the 30K that we're putting in St Albans, Westminster Street, what's happening for? One like 30K there. I put it through.
Yeah, but they're being pulled back though, aren't they?
That's right, so that's
Yeah.
my point. So the question is, I mean, are we moving too slowly on actions to keep these kids safe coming out from school on Westminster Street?
I think it's part of a bigger issue. This is what we've been raising for ages. We haven't got red light running cameras. We haven't got police enforcing there. I'm not going to go back into it because we talk about it all the time. And we have far too many cars on Cranford Street. I mean, that's what the issue is.
Far too many cars on Cranford Street.
Well,
Shall I bring up my suggestion that we put red lights at the end?
I don't know, we should be opening up full far. That's what we should be doing.
Have we got?
It is going to be more.
Wait, right, anything else from anyone?
Well, yeah, so just on the Cranford Street, don't know if anyone's looked at these, but there's incorrect information in here. So, they've got currently 2 northbound lanes at the Berwick Cranford intersection must merge after English Park signalised pedestrian crossing until 2 lanes resume after the Westminster Cranford Street intersection.
Right.
No, they don't.
No, there aren't.
Yes,
Bus
if you're
lane.
heading north from Berwick,
There's a clear
There's
way.
2 lanes. You can turn right out of Berwick onto Cranford onto 2 lanes.
Resume
Oh, yeah.
after they resume after the Westminster Cranford intersection.
Sure do.
Yeah.
4 to
They
6
do,
PM
until
every day.
for a little while, these 2
Yep.
lanes.
Other
you
than
can
that,
go
it's
2 lanes
cars
through
can
this.
park in
It's
there.
northbound.
Yep.
It's northbound.
Yeah. Other
There
than-
aren't 2 lanes, it's
Recently,
just
asked
the
about
bus lane.
enforcement there because people are parking there during the clear
It's,
lane.
it's only a bus lane for 2 hours.
No, this is my question to the
North
staff
of,
at the
this is
moment.
north of Westminster.
Outside the shops, there are 2 lanes. You can go straight through from both lanes at the lights.
They can't.
I don't think.
For about this far.
But that's.
Because it becomes a bus lane.
2 lanes, that's what that's.
But it's not 2 lane, I mean, it doesn't return to 2 lanes. The 2 lanes don't resume after Westminster. That's the intersection. So they come through they've got that slight little bit coming through the intersection and then it goes down to 1 lane. It's not 2 lanes after.
Because there's
Westminster
car parking on the
Street.
left and then beyond the car parking is the bus lane. Which you can't, which I'm waiting for legal advice on that now, but if there aren't cars parked in the bus lane
Yeah.
and it's not bus lane hours.
Yeah.
I've had 2 different comments. Staff said you cannot use the bus lane as a traffic lane. No, Lynette.
Okay, it reverts to parking.
No, if there aren't cars there,
Yeah,
so the
yeah.
lane is empty.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
you
no, they've told us that we
Yeah.
can't.
it's not, because it's a bus lane.
Yeah.
It's only a bus lane for 2 hours.
No, that's
No,
not,
and then
that's
it's
not what
parking.
Lynette said.
And then it's there for parking.
Yeah, but if there's no cars parking in there.
No, you
can
can't.
use it.
Staff have
You
said you
can't.
can't, Pauline, that's why. I've
It's
asked
not a,
Mark
ri-
to
it's not,
update
it's
that.
not a
Okay.
right way.
Wait on the advice.
Yeah.
Staff on that one.
So, and also, I was just wondering what people's opinions are on the fact that they have included in here this, like the bit about the 407 submitters. 65 of them were supportive of the peak hour clearways from research from 2018, which is before anyone even knew what was going to happen. And knew the consequences of this, and that's really like biased. It's like it's out of date.
What did it say?
Information.
Oh, what does it say?
So it goes on about it's April 2018, we asked for feedback on several proposals aimed at easing the effects of the northern of the CNC. Now, I don't know if anyone can remember back to them, but also that information, those documents were really badly put together. They didn't even indicate that people were going to be affected by them. It was just Cranford Street, none of the other roads. And, like that piece of consultation was pulled apart by the community as being very bad. And then they've come and put it back into this one and said that 65% of the submitters actually support a peak hour clearway.
They did.
You go back and read the comments.
I've read it.
You've read the comments?
I've read the
So you've got
standard report.
yes, but I don't know how, yes, because it's the only option. Yes, but I'd like to know more about this. Yes, there's no information as yet, blah, blah, blah.
What happened was
And it's all
most
before
people
the
supported the
material
clearway, the peak hour clearways. And then what happened was NZTA, the Residents Association and City Council staff came in and said that it didn't tick the climate strategy boxes. So there were 3 organisations that came in and said that might be the most or the option that people like the most, but it doesn't tick the boxes as far as climate strategy goes. So then staff had to take that out as a preferred option. You have a look at the Stantec report, and that's why it's mentioned there, but peak hour clearways have come off the list of preferred options because of those 3 organisations not wanting them in there. Yeah.
What documents is that you've got there, Emma?
That's the consultation. It's on the page as well. It's online.
Yeah.
It's on the consultation page for Cranford as well.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I've seen it.
Yeah.
I just can't, you all know how I feel about, reducing traffic. I just cannot believe that,
Yeah, I mean,
That's right.
that's the numbers. You can't
Yeah,
believe.
that's right. They're the numbers, and that's
why did they put the 2018? There's been 2019.
Yeah, but they
There
were
was
changed.
further-
They were made to take it out. No.
There was further consultation after that.
Yeah, but by removing the most preferred options because it didn't tick the climate change strategy boxes.
Well, then that's exactly what they should be doing.
Anyway.
So, and how is it in this
We're
one?
not
Is
changing
the
what.
climate change thing
Document now.
finished? Because again, if you look into if you look online, they've got the information there about the climate change and what difference it's going to make to CO2 emissions. And it's like 0.2 or something or other change. We're going for 70%.
Right, guys, we're not debating this now. Has anyone else?
I was just bringing up all the things that are wrong in the.
Has anyone else got anything?
Again.
Members information exchange.
I've got
John.
just a short one. A lot of the residents associations, there are quite a few in Central, have been doing a really good job. I just want to commend them for the work they've been doing on reviewing and renewing their constitutions, which is now a requirement of the Incorporated Societies Act, most of them are. And most recent AGM I attended was for the Richmond Residents and Business Association, who had a bit of a valedictory there for their retiring chairman, David Duffy, who we all met. And it was very nice, actually. There's a slideshow, and I was well impressed with the amount of work that they've done over the past, only since 2018, six or so years. A relatively new organisation that boxes above its weight in terms of age. And David has been replaced with the new chair, who is Murray. I can't remember Murray's.
James.
Yes,
Very man.
James,
Yes. So he'll be fired here at some stage, I'm sure. So yeah, I thought they're a good outfit and sort of vindicates the support that we provide to them also.
Okay, thanks for filling us.
Well, thanks for going to that. I couldn't make it. I was out of town. I think.
You were out of town.
Anyone else?
Oh, can I just say too, the consultation stuff online for Cranford, the interactive thing where you ask questions and get answers is brilliant. I don't know whether we've used that before on other consultations, but people are asking questions of the engineers and getting responses back pretty bloody quickly, actually, which has been great. So I wanted to commend staff on that as well. And the webinar we recently had that the staff put on Cranford Street was really, it was very, very good. So I would encourage everyone to be putting the link on their page for that too, so that people who didn't make it can actually see that. Have we got it on our Facebook page, Emma?
No, I haven't put it up there.
Yeah, so that was really good. Yeah.
That you will.
Yeah, I can do. I was going to put up a reminder next week about the session.
Oh, there's just one last thing very quickly. I've been approached by someone in the neighbourhood in the Melvin special character area, you know, the new kind of area there. She's been living in an earthquake damaged house for nearly 11 years now, 11 years, and is having some real issues around being able to do the rebuild of her home because of the heritage issues. Could we get an update on where that's at? I know that the council is looking at this through the IHP at the moment, but could we get an update on it, on how it affects the particular areas in our ward? Is that possible?
Can you take it offline and email me a request?
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I'll do that, Mark, thank you, yeah.
Sorry, I've just got one other thing that seems to be building around the area that I've brought up before is cars parking on footpaths. So, it's something that continues to grow.
Fines are going up.
Are they?
Yeah, 1st October.
Oh, gosh, I won't do it then.
Yeah.
But yeah, just wanted to raise it that, more and more. And it seems that like once one car does it, then you've got, everyone else says things that they can do it. So, yeah, and I just, I don't think it's a good precedent to allow any car to be parking on a footpath.
Cool. Seems so.
I do.
Good. Cool. Okay, well, in that case, we will finish with our karakia. Here. We'll close the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Emma, bye,